Hello and welcome to the Halcyon Podcast. My name's Leonides. I'm going to be your host for this episode. As you can hear, my voice is nearly 100% again, so happy days there. As far as content is concerned, I promised a podcast a week. I promised a video a week. The video is uploading as we speak. However, I've yet to record a podcast. It is Sunday afternoon, so I've got a promise to keep. So, on this podcast, I'm going to talk about a couple of different things that are gaming related, sporting related, and also personal related, because I think that is probably the way to go. I've been toying with the ideas, and it just seems to be easier for me to be able to do it this way. And personally, I prefer enjoying working on what I'm working on. So this is how it's going to go. So let's talk about, first of all, I want to talk about work, and this is something that could potentially land me in trouble down the line, but we'll see how it goes and see if I can temper my thoughts, at least to the extent where I don't end up unemployed. So those of you who work for a living, which is going to be at 100% of you, because unless there's multi-millionaires listening to this podcast and you're not investing in my show so I don't have to go to work anymore, what are you doing? As far as the working class goes, you have to deal with customers and you have to deal with other businesses. Now, if you've worked in an office environment for a period of time, you'll understand that there is such a thing as politics. You'll understand that there's a lot that goes into the actual day-to-day running of a business that has nothing to do with actual work. You'll also understand that day-to-day you've got to deal with the temperaments, the inconsistencies, the complete unadulterated unpredictability that is the consumer market. Now, in the kind of line of work that I've done over the past 5 or 6 years, you deal face-to-face with customers, you deal with a business-to-business, you deal with people within your business, and you're a conduit for a lot of them sometimes. Most of the places that I've worked, I have related to all elements of the business, rather than just sticking to working on something or working with someone or working towards a group of people. I haven't done that since I was maybe 18, 19, when I only ever dealt with customers. And it's a lot harder than people think. I mean, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the sports comparison sites and the sports, the pundits, that's what I meant to say, sports comparison. No, it's sports comparison sites. Let's put football next to boxing and see who comes out on top. That's a good idea. Invest in that instead. As far as sportsmen are concerned, it's like, oh, it's so hard and blah, 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 and there's no retirement plan. Bitch, please. We all have struggles in our jobs. The difference is you only have to do yours for 10 years before you've earned enough money to live for a lifetime. If you don't, you drop into working like the rest of us, so it's not so bad. So listen, we all make do. We all proceed with our lives and find dreams and pursue those within the boundaries of our financial inhibitors, shall we call them, i.e. I live month to month. I have very little in the way of savings and outward materialistic goods, which is why if anyone ever burgles my house, I almost feel sorry for you, because, well, you're going to leave maybe less than empty-handed. You're probably going to have spent more money trying to burgle me than you will have done having burgled me. But anyway, nevertheless, what annoys me about that is that a lot of people who work for a living often keep what grinds their gears in, because you run the risk of implicating yourself. You run the risk of annoying not only your fellow workmates but also potential customers. Now, what I think people need to realize is that we all work, okay? We all work for each other, so a bit of common courtesy is never a bad thing. I also think people need to understand and appreciate the fact that with a lot of these jobs comes a degree of give and take, and I get that as a consumer and a customer, the temptation is there to throw your weight around a little bit. You know that you're in a fortuitous relationship to a degree, in the sense that yes, you can take your money and go elsewhere. You can take your business and go elsewhere. You can make certain demands and things of that nature, and that's fine. You also have to realize that the people working behind the desk can only tolerate so much before it starts degrading them as a human being. Now, I raise this because over the past say 2 years, I've worked in much more consumer-centric roles that balance all different types of things. And in the role I am now, for instance, without going into too much detail, I do, like I say, deal with inner workings of the business, people within the business, and consumers face to face. And what I find difficult to balance sometimes is how to switch the relationships between the two. You go from being prim and proper with the bigwigs of a business to down and dirty and really, nitty gritty and banterish with your work colleagues, to being again a sort of a mixture between the two and trying to temper your reactions to what this particular customer is going to want when you're dealing with customers. And that's a hard thing. I mean, I struggle with it sometimes, I can't lie. I've worked since I was 16. I've held full-time employment since I was 18. I didn't go to university. So I'd like to think I have some experience in this that lends itself well to speaking to, look, I get it's easy and sometimes tempting to kind of go, this is unacceptable. This is the absolute worst thing I've ever seen. Do you know what? I can't believe what you've just done, blah, blah, blah. And it's, look, I understand that you feel aggrieved sometimes. But as consumers, you also have to understand that there are certain expectations. You should learn to temper yourself in front of people, because your foot's going to be on the other shoe is going to be on the other foot at some stage. It's going to happen. Now imagine again, I maybe preached this too much, who knows. But imagine again if we live in a world where we all cut each other that little bit of slack and understand that we work for a business and sometimes things don't go right. Sometimes you've got to make amendments and change things. Sometimes human error comes into the fray. It just happens. But I think we're starting to become a culture that demands perfection without really paying for it. We expect too much sometimes of the people that we see. I mean, I'll give you an example. The amount of times I go to Tesco's or Asda or Sainsbury's, or pick your supermarket, whatever, and I go to the teller, and I know how hard it is to sit there and do something monotonous all day long. It was one of my first jobs, is just doing paperwork all day. Didn't speak to anybody, just typed shit into a PC. And yet, when I extend a little courtesy, like a, hi there, how you doing? Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. And I always say the same thing. Yeah, I'm really good, thanks. How you doing? How's your shift going? That question there jumps the boundary from being a customer and a business person, if you want to call it that, or an employee, to, well, no, you're a human being. I want to know you're all right. If there's any, there's any issues, let me not add to that. Let me just say, yeah, I'm having a shit day. Okay, cool. Let's get me out of the way and done, so you can get the next person out of the way and done, so you're that much closer to going home. You happy? Cool. Let's have a bit of banter back and forth. Lighten both of our days up. Great. The people that come in and demand and procrastinate over their own answers and do this and do that, and you go, listen, you're not thinking, you're not applying logic here, are you? I appreciate when people get angry. I appreciate that things seem unfair at times, but trust me when I say that you'll find a way around this. So in a long-winded way at the beginning of this podcast, I just wanted to touch on a professional aspect, because I think a lot of people work for a living, they know the frustration, they know the struggle, but in the same swoop, they will do the same thing. So what I'm saying to people is, try to employ a bit of humanity, a bit of empathy when you go about your business. When you're going food shopping or you're buying something new, yes, it's your responsibility as a consumer to know what it is you're doing, know what it is you're buying, understand the realities of the situation. Don't always buy what the person's selling in terms of what they, oh yeah, it can do this and that, and of course we can do this and that and the other. They go, listen, I'm not interested in the big sales pitch. I want to know what's real. I want to know what you're actually going to do, because then we're going to get along a lot better. I try not to overpromise in anything I do. Sometimes you have to, I'm not going to lie, because again, you have to massage the ego of certain customers, and I don't enjoy that. I don't feel like I need my ego massaged. If someone says something nice about me, I'll often disregard it as best I can, because I don't believe in buying into your own hype and taking compliments willy-nilly. If it's heartfelt, fair enough, but yeah, I just think if you can extend an olive branch, as small as it is, to people in a day-to-day life, in a working environment, it makes all the difference in the world to someone's working day and to a lesser extent in their life. So at the beginning of this podcast, I just wanted to say, be excellent to each other, because that segues into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is Bill and Ted is getting a sequel. How freaking cool is that? Unbelievable. And they're getting Keanu Reeves and the other dude. I should know his name, but I don't have time to Google him. So I hope everyone gets excited for that, goes and watches Excellent Adventure and Bogus Journey again like I did when I was a kid. It's going to be interesting to see how they tackle it, in terms of the fact that it's effectively the stories about them having not written the songs that cure all the diseases and bring about world peace and contact aliens and all the rest of it. It's not happened, even though at the end of the second film they'd become stars and they'd done that. You know, they'd time traveled into the future and become guitar gods and all the rest of it, and had kids and the wives and stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how they balance that out while keeping it fun, because that's the critical thing. There can't be, if there's one franchise from my childhood that I really want them to not fuck with, in terms of, okay, we need to make it gritty and realistic. What would it really be? No, I don't want to hear it. They're two airheads. Just make it light, make it fun, make it happy, please. Just, even if it sucks at the beginning in terms of their situation. Both the previous films, their situations weren't that bad. They weren't that bad. It was more the wider implications of the world that we hadn't seen, that we didn't care about. We only cared about these two dudes. So make it fun, make it light. Don't make it 2.5 hours long. Just make it an hour and a half. A really good summer film. I don't care if it's that next year that it comes out. Just make it fun, make it light. But Bill and Ted is going to be excellent. I can't wait for it. In other movie news, Deadpool 2 is literally a couple of days away. I am probably going to hold off seeing it until next month, when I'll probably do a review on it. I've done Avengers and another review which will be coming out soon, A Quiet Place. I saw both of those movies this month. And unfortunately, no one told me that going to the Odeon is akin to signing over one of your kidneys and still the masking for, well, no, sorry, sir, you actually still owe us a little bit more. So, yeah, that's cleared me out, so I can't afford to go to Deadpool, unfortunately. Not the most glamorous admission in the world, but I'll certainly get around to watching it at some point. It's looking better and better, but I think we can all agree that the promotional campaigns for Deadpool is really what we get excited for now. The David Beckham Deadpool trailer has dropped. He's done one with Hugh Jackman. If you can't say anything else, Ryan Reynolds will promote his films as hard as he can, so props to him for that. But yeah, Deadpool 2, it's got a lot to follow up from Infinity Wars, which if you've not seen my review on, I would urge you to go and watch it now, so please go do that if you don't mind. Witcher 3, the review is dropping, if it hasn't already dropped, it will be dropping very, very shortly, which is amazing game. I'm still completing Mass Effect. It's taking a lot longer than I originally thought. I will say one thing though, direct comparison between the two, good God, how did The Witcher accomplish that with the team that they had compared to EA? It's amazing how little EA actually do with their money. In other news, so gaming is out of the side. E3 is happening soon, so I'll probably do a video once that's dropped as far as hyping everything that needs to be hyped. But we'll see what happens there. In terms of sport, again, we're looking at a couple of stories, but nothing massively of interest. Arsene Wenger's final matches as we speak. It's being played. I believe they're about 15 minutes into the second half as I record this. So Arsenal are 1-0 up at the time of this recording. Hopefully we can leave on a win. Episode dropping soon of mine that... still 1-0, yes. What it's like to be an Arsenal fan. You'll get a couple of blinks soon that aren't reviews of anything in particular. They'll be just talking about what it's like to be and it can be anything like a game, or it could a gamer, or a football fan, or a wrestling fan, or whatever. I'm going to try and focus on trying to share the experiences from someone from my perspective, because I think that's going to make the more interesting content. Rather than talking about what everyone else would be talking about, I can share a unique perspective from me and how I think, because I know I have a unique perspective on things, because I know no one thinks like me. So I want to focus on that if I can. So yeah, as far as that's concerned, that's there. I will do more WWE related content when I can, but at the moment I'm not watching it a lot, so I can't really talk about it. Same with the UFC. There's a couple of fights coming up soon. I know Nunes just fought and won, but again, the intrigue really isn't there unless she goes up to fight Cyborg, or if she fights someone else of note. The problem is, again, you've got Rose Namajunas, I want to say. You've got Amanda Nunes and you've got Chris Cyborg as the three big sort of fighting champions in the female divisions, but they're all at different weight classes, so it's tricky to put them together. You've also got the Stipe Miocic and DC fight coming up shortly. You've got Lesnar trying to get back into the pool as far as I can tell, but there's a 4-month waiting period before then and when he could actually fight. So we want to do a training camp thereafter so that he can be fresh and actually have a chance of winning. And as far as everything else is going, I mean, I just want to give, I guess I do want to touch on this because I did a podcast that ranted for maybe half an hour, and I do want to give an update on this because I think if people listen to that, they'll listen to this. I'm okay. I'm getting there. It's a week on from that podcast, just over a week in fact, and I feel better about things in general. As far as my life is concerned, people who know me will know this. There's always something, man. There's always, and I don't know if I bring it on myself by just having the mentality of don't get too happy about something because it will go away soon. It's getting better, and it's just taking time, and it's taking a lot of effort on my part to expend my energies in a way that's productive and constructive and positive and forward momentum building and going from there. So for those of you who listen to the podcast, especially Cyril from Defunct Gaming, who's an absolute legend, always posts, always takes the time to lodge, and anyone that listened to it, anyone that shared it, I really appreciate it. I felt it needed to be said. I still stand by a lot of the sentiments in the podcast, albeit I would like to articulate them maybe a little bit better because it was very raw. It was very emotional for me to kind of sit there and just lay it out on the line. As far as things where I go from here, like I said, the channel is still very much my main outlet for creativity. I'm gaming, I'm watching sports, I'm getting back in the gym, I'm working hard, I'm trying to focus on my little one. Life moves on. And if I'm going to finish this podcast on one note, it's this. A couple of things have happened in the last couple of weeks with people in or around my life. Some positive, some absolutely brilliant positives. A friend of mine's recently just had his baby. So congratulations to him and the little girl that they've just had. He will learn very quickly that having a little girl is a very, very trying experience because little boys, you think, yep, I can be the strong Despoterian dad. With a daughter, best of luck with that. Honestly, you will be dressing up in fairies' clothes before you know it. You'll be, honestly, your masculinity is going to take a real hit there. And for anyone that doesn't have kids, trust me when I say having a daughter makes you really think about what you thought was cool before and makes you put it to one side because for the little one, you're willing to make some pretty big sacrifices towards your dignity. But what I want to say is that people must find happiness in their lives, and for the last week and a half, it's been tricky for me to find mine. I'm working on it though. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm getting there. And part of getting there is being around people, interacting with them, doing the show. It's not easy for me. My initial response to a lot of things is just to clam up, find a quiet space, sit by myself and contemplate things. But the more I'm trying to mature as a person, the more I'm trying to realize that maybe that's not the best way to do things. So if I'm going to say anything about this podcast is, be excellent to each other. You don't know what you're going through. You don't know what they're going through. Be excellent. And the worst thing that can happen is, hey, they're not that appreciative, in which case, hey, you can take your ball and go play with somebody else. Best case scenario, you've supported each other through something shit, and we can all move on. So, I'm going to end this podcast on this note, which is be excellent to each other. I hope you're all doing okay. I hope you're all taking care of yourselves. I hope you're checking out some of the content that's coming out soon. I hope you're going to check out some of the other content creators in the description that I always put in the description below. Cronin, my boy Crow, he's producing a lot of content. Obviously, Defunct Games is churning out content. 5 Minute Discussions is absolutely killing it as well at the moment. She's making some fucking amazing content. You really need to go check out her videos. And yeah, I think I want to wrap it up here. So thanks very much for listening to this episode of the Halcyon Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am trying to keep up with just current events on there as well and tweeting funny shit as and when I think about it. So yeah, it's literally full-time at Arsenal. 1-0 to Arsenal over Huddersfield, so Arsene Wenger finishes. Chelsea get hammered 3-0 by Newcastle. Tottenham's inexplicably managed to get 5-4 over Leicester. So yeah, swings and roundabouts as we end this podcast. So, one final note then. Congratulations to Arsene Wenger in his tenure. Speaking as a fan that's only ever known Arsene Wenger, I thank you for everything you've, even though you'll never listen to this podcast, I thank you for everything you've done for this club. I thank you for everything you've done for us fans. And I thank you for finally accepting the reality of a situation that was, it was time to go and it was time to leave while we still had some goodwill within us to give you. So that's the Halcyon Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe. Check out the other content creators in the description below. Follow me on Twitter. And then always take care of yourselves. And I'll see you on the next episode of the Halcyon Podcast.